Let's add some functionality finally to our page. So when we click this add button here, we're going to add it into our basket over here. So first of all, we need to create an empty array over here. And once we click this add button, it pushes this into the array. So whenever we click it, it's going to add it, right? So let's go back to our code here. And currently our basket, I just changed this to current basket. It might be bagels or something else for you. But let's go down here. Right now, we just copied the other one. That's why we have this over here, right? So instead of having menu items, we're just going to create an array called baskets for starters. So this will give us an error, maybe not, but in the console there will be an error. But that's fine. And if you scroll down to the data here, right now we have an array called menu items. We're going to create one called basket. And this is again set to an array, but an empty one instead of the one we have here. So every time we click or add something, it's going to be pushed into this array here. So click save and everything still works. Great. What we want to push into the basket is, if we click this one, we want to push this into it. We want to push the name, description, and the well, not the description, we want to push the name and the price and a quantity into it, right? So each click adds a quantity and we're just going to add one for each time, right? So let's go back up to our code here and let's locate where our add button is. And this is our add button we have, right? And for this to work, we're just going to do the standard v on, like so, v on click, whoops, like that. And if you want to use the shorthand notation, that's just with the at sign. It is up to you. I'm gonna use the at sign for this one, and I'm gonna create a name for my method later on. I'm gonna call this add to basket, and what I want to push through this one is an item, right? So for each item I push through, this one here, it's going to take this data and store it and push it through the array. So remember to add the item into the parentheses here. Right, so this is now having a, let's click save, we can go out here, we can click it, nothing happens. If we do a inspect and we go to the console, you can see many errors, right? Let's just do one. So right now it says there's no property or no method called add basket, and that's correct because we haven't created it yet. So let's scroll all the way down to our code. Let's go make sure we're after our data. So click this one here so we can see where this ends. And it's just before the last one. And here we're going to create, we need to create some methods. And for this to work, we need to use the name that we of course attach to the add click. So add to basket, I think it was with a capital, I hope. And parentheses and our curly brackets here. Now, if you remember at our add click, we told it to pass through a piece of data, or in this case, an item as we named it. You can name this boogie boards just as long as it's the same both places, right? Remember that. Now, what we want to do is we want to grab this array up here, and that's inside the scope here. So we're going to use this keyword to grab the basket, and what we want to do is when we click the button, we want to take the item and then throw it into this array, and that's the JavaScript version of push, or we want to push it into this one. Cool, so create a parentheses and our double curly bracket, so it looks like this. Now we need to tell it what it's going to receive. So it's going to receive a key and a value here, and the key for the first one is name, and that is going to be attached to the item.name. Cool, that's the first one. Second one we want to do is price, and similar to this, so item.price, that's what we're going to save it to. And the last thing we're going to add into it is a quantity, if I can spell correctly, like so, quantity, and we're just going to pass in 1. So let's click save, let's go back to the browser, hit refresh, and let's click one of these. So hopefully, as you can see, you get one over here, the frozen yogurt, and we get the eclair and cupcakes and so on. So now we're pushing into the data, right? That's cool. So let's add, in the next video, we're going to add a click function for this, so we can add to the quantity or remove from the quantity for each of these new things in our array.